Thank you. Thank you, Don. All right, so I'm at SLU in Skinnskatteberg. My name is Tomas Ersson. I'm here to present a little bit, a bit of knowledge that I have synthesized together with some people from Skogforsk, Jussi Manner and Lars-Göran Sundblad, who is now retired, and also Mats Hannertz, who many of you know from various his company Sylvan Information. So I'm gonna be talking about mechanized tree planting, and we had a project that we were examining the bottlenecks, sort of that prevent the full-scale implementation of mechanized tree planting in Swedish forestry. So since the 60s, that's when research started on mechanized tree planting in the Nordics. And by the 90s, and here you can just see what at the millennium, by the end of the millennium, these were commercially available, these machines. And by the 90s, that's when we started getting tree planting machines that were commercially available. The trend, if you look at it, has been towards simpler and simpler machines. Today, there's you could say that tree planting machines are enjoying a bit of a revival, and there are several projects running a parallel in Sweden, and I know Linnea will be speaking of one at least, and there might be some others speaking of some. First out, sort of in the sort of new generation of tree planting machines, is this Plantmax, and it's now commercially available.
Är vi inloggade? Okay, we try to fix that.
Usually you have to check a little box down on the left, and when you in Zoom that says you want to transmit audio as well. That is often forgotten. I know that from my own lecturing. Might be a problem. No, but I know that it's a problem sometimes. All right. Should I keep saying something, speaking? All right. Okay. Yeah, all right. Anyway, so the Plantmax is now commercially available, and it's sort of doing a world tour, and they have orders from USA and Brazil and everything like that. So it seems, and Plantmax is a new version of the old Silvanova. And then there are some other sort of more visionary projects, Autoplant, that we'll hear more about later on, and also this Brasat, which is Södra's own project. But if you look at all these machines and all, especially these new projects, you could say that there's still something that no one has really started to address yet, and because it's often very tedious and it gets very, very big very quickly, and that's just the seedling handling. So common for all of these is that it's still unsure of how the seedlings are supposed to be, how they're supposed to come from the nursery into the ground, sort of in a coordinated fashion. So we had a study where the objectives was just basically to describe and sort of just to again try to learn from the past what previous seedling handling systems we had for tree planting machines. Not going too far back, but sort of far back, and just to sort of look to in the future and try to do some sort of a smart synthesis and wonder about what potential starting points we should have for future seedling supply systems. So seedling handling, that's what affects you could say the contractor or the machine operator, whereas seedling supply systems affects the whole chain. It's even usually affecting the nursery and maybe even you could say the forest owner. So seedling supply system is broader. All right, so in our study we had a few different stages, literature studies and brainstorming sections. We even did some hands-on trials and data analysis. So the photos are from the hands-on trials. Okay, and the results, well, if you just look at some of these seedling supply systems, so on a sort of a broader scale, there were a few attempts in the past. And one of them was called the EcoBan pack, which was sort of it was for this eco-planter, this machine there in the middle. And it was done here in north of Sweden, and it uses these, you could say, these band-mounted seedlings. You could see there, the little sketch. And so it, of course, as you can see, involved a stage in the nursery as well, where you sort of loaded the seedlings into these strips of paper. And then there was also another system, which was called the bottlenecks system, and it was used on the Silvanova during the end of the 90s. And the original vision was to go back even into the nursery, but in the end, that was too much to bite. So they used a loading system at roadside there, and then it was that way. It was transferred then to the machine, the planting machine. And there's been some conceptual trials, if you go way back when, all kinds of things like surface planting, which would use another type of a seedling, and then also this type of a thing where you use some sort of a other root plug. More have been proposed, but that's sort of, you could say some of the more some of the more, these are the more creative ones, and some of them, that the other two, the PLS and the EcoBan pack, are the more operational ones. Previous seedling handling solutions. If we look at seedling handling, this affects then the contractor or the operator. And if you look at the piecewise seedling, so seedling feeding, so this is where you load or you handle one at a time, the seedlings. That's what's used today on the plant max. That's what the second operator does essentially, is to load seedlings one by one. And that's been the same technology used on most of the other tree planting machines that have been commercially operative. But there has been attempts to do what I call bundle-wise seedling feeding, so where you use them sort of in a handling unit. And one was the Serlacius. I'm going to see if this works. Yeah, it does. Okay. Where they the idea was they sawed apart peat briquettes of peat where the seedlings were grown in. And then I myself have tried as well tray-wise loading, and there's also done with another planting machine where you had these band-mounted seedlings. And so common with that is that the idea with this is that you speed up sort of, either you get rid of the operator there, or you speed up, you minimize the downtime of the machine. So if you do bundle-wise seedling feeding, you have to extract the seedlings somehow. And if you use cultivation trays, you could either do it with grippers or depluggers. And grippers are used now, for example, in a number of these different newer projects. And the good thing with the depluggers is it works with trays or grippers works with boxes as well. Whereas if you have depluggers, they have to have a specific type of a tray. So it's been used in a few of these systems, but they've been very specific trays. All right, so also within our project, we did sort of a cost analysis. Looking again, sort of at a more broader perspective back to the nursery, these kind of a seedling supply system. And this, in this case, was an analysis of Sweden's most common planting machine, which is called the Brackeplanter. And here we had 5 different packaging concepts. So basically the same type of a seedling, just in a different way to send to the machine. And we had cultivation trays. We had the normal manual tree planting box with the seedlings are lying sort of intertwined there. We had a conceptual system which used, you could say, collapsible grids. So the seedlings were to lie in collapsible grids. And then we had systems where the seedlings were sent in these rigid grids. And then they were loaded onto that machine there. So in the analysis here, this were the 5 systems. Those are the different names. All right, and so we looked at the cost efficiency. Basically, it was sort of a rather static analysis, but looking at a bunch of different parameters. And basically, the end result was that there seemed to be sort of an interesting in this conceptual system, which was called this man-box fast, which had these collapsible grids. And basically in this cost analysis, this was the sort of the input parameters around what the cost of the machine and how many seedlings were produced per year. So discussion, how realistic is such a concept? It seemed to be cost efficient, but you could wonder how the seedling health would be with this. For example, if you compress the peat plugs, how much water can they hold and such like that. And also the reward versus risk. So if you invest in these machine-specific seedling packaging concepts, you take a risk because maybe some of these seedlings won't get, the machine breaks down. What are you going to do with them, for example? And we also saw that traditionally there's been a lot of problem around the root plug cohesion. So maybe we could, if we involve the nurseries more, maybe you could have some sort of a self-supporting substrate, or maybe here, like in Brazil, they have some sort of a sock. We also have been discussing that we probably have to have one nursery within Sweden that is willing to invest in some of this machinery and to start at one nursery. And also, if we send out seedlings in a cultivation tray, how can we freeze or store them? It's very important to have frozen stored seedlings in the springtime. So conclusions from our project is we have to have a high packing density. There's a lot of interesting solutions, but if we can't have high packing density, then we won't get cost efficiency in the seedling supply systems. If we increase the planting machine's hourly cost, then all these type of solutions become a lot more interesting. So if we have a high cost machine like the Silva Plant Max, then it's very interesting to have these supply systems. Standardization. This should be a discussion within the forestry industry. Maybe we can at least start with sort of a equally dimensioned box as a starting point. And we need to have a renewed project regarding research and development on these seedling supply systems. Yeah, thank you.